On Valentine's Day 1982, an Arizona state trooper pulled off Interstate 40 looking for a tire that had fallen from a passing truck. What he found instead would haunt investigators for nearly 40 years. Lying face down under a cedar tree, just 20 feet from the highway, was the body of a young woman. She had no ID, no shoes, no name. No one had reported her missing. No one, it seemed, was looking for her. She was 17 years old. For almost 4 decades, she was known only as Valentine Sally, named for the day she was found. And the man who killed her has never been caught. If you've never heard this case, stay with us. Subscribe now and hit the bell because this is the kind of story that deserves to be heard. This is the story of Carolyn Celeste Eaton. And it begins, as so many tragedies do, with a girl just trying to find her way home. Carolyn Celeste Eaton was born on October 1st, 1964, in Bellefontaine Neighbors, a small suburb sitting just outside St. Louis, Missouri. She grew up in the kind of working-class community that doesn't make headlines, where families scrape by and children grow up fast. By her teenage years, Carolyn had already developed a pattern of running away. There were juvenile records. There were disappearances. She was a girl who kept moving, kept leaving, kept searching for something or someone that could anchor her. Around Christmas 1981, she was 17 years old when her family came home to find her in the house with 2 men they didn't recognize. An argument broke out, the kind of argument that happens in struggling households, full of fear and frustration and things said in the heat of the moment. Carolyn walked out the front door. She did not look back. She was never officially reported missing. That detail, so small, so devastating, would define the next 4 decades of this case. Because when a girl is never reported missing, the machinery that searches for missing girls never starts. She simply vanished into the cracks between official records, and the world moved on without her. What happened next, investigators have painstakingly pieced together from the fragments she left behind. It is believed that Carolyn made her way to Phoenix, Arizona, possibly through hitchhiking, the most desperate and dangerous form of travel a teenage girl could choose in 1982. Someone who matched her description told a student near Cords Junction on February 2nd that she had been living in Phoenix with friends, working as a dishwasher. She said she needed to get to New Jersey. Family problems, she told him. She was planning to head to a truck stop in Flagstaff and find a driver heading east. She was alone. She was in pain. The tooth that had recently been drilled for a root canal was still causing her agony. She had tucked a crushed baby aspirin into the cavity to dull it. 2 days later, on the morning of February 4th, 1982, a waitress named Patty Wilkins was working at her family's Monte Carlo truck stop near Ash Fork, Arizona, a dusty, unremarkable stop along Interstate 40, the kind of place where long-haul drivers pulled in at strange hours and nobody asked too many questions. That morning, a teenage girl walked in with an older man. Patty noticed them immediately. The girl was blonde, slim, blue-eyed, pretty in the way that made you want to protect her. She looked out of place, not because of how she was dressed, but because of how young she was, and how much older the man beside her appeared to be. He was somewhere in his 50s, Patty estimated. Medium build, 5'8", maybe 5'10". He wore a 2-toned checkered leather vest and a black felt cowboy hat with a peacock feather attached to the brim. He ordered breakfast. The girl refused to eat. Her tooth was hurting too much. Patty Wilkins felt something was wrong. She pulled the girl aside quietly and asked her, "Are you okay? Do you want to stay here? You don't have to leave with him." The girl insisted she was fine. She wanted to stay with the truck driver. Patty crushed up an aspirin tablet, ground it into powder, and applied it carefully to the girl's aching tooth. It was an act of kindness that would become, decades later, one of the most important pieces of forensic evidence in the entire case. Within hours, investigators believe it was within hours Carolyn Eaton was dead. On February 14, 1982, Valentine's Day, an Arizona state trooper named Donald Ewells pulled off Interstate 40 at mile marker 151. Near Williams, Arizona. He was looking for a truck tire that had reportedly fallen from a passing vehicle. He never found the tire. What he found instead was a body, lying face down beneath a cedar tree, approximately 20 to 25 feet from the highway's edge. The scene told a story of violence, without a single word. Her jeans size 8 or 9, brand name Seasons, had torn belt loops, consistent with someone having grabbed them and dragged her from the road. Her red and white striped sweater and her bra lay nearby, not on her body. No shoes, no socks, no identification of any kind. The body had been decomposing for approximately 2 weeks, and wildlife had caused significant damage, particularly to her face, head, and neck, the very areas that might have revealed how she died and what she looked like. Her right ear had been torn away entirely. Determining the precise cause of death was not possible. But the medical examiner noted something significant. Her hyoid bone, the small bone in the throat, that typically fractures in cases of strangulation, was intact. Combined with the absence of other trauma, the conclusion was suffocation or asphyxiation. Someone had held this girl down and stopped her from breathing. She was approximately 17 years old. 5'4" or 5. Blonde hair, roughly 9.5 inches long. Blue eyes, according to Patty Wilkins. Scars on her left foot, and lower thigh marks of a life already marked by injury or hardship. And in her tooth, the lower left molar that had been drilled for a root canal just days before the dissolved remains of an aspirin tablet. The aspirin Patty Wilkins had crushed for her that morning. She had been dead within hours of leaving that truck stop. And nobody knew her name. Local authorities did what they could. A sketch was made 4 days after discovery, based on Patty's description. It was distributed. The case ran in newspapers. But without a missing persons report, without a family asking questions, without a name to attach to the face, the trail went cold almost immediately. Then, in July 1984, investigators thought they had a breakthrough. A forensic odontologist from Albuquerque matched the victim's dental records to a runaway from Florida named Melody Eugenia Cutlip, who had been reported missing by her mother in 1980. The match appeared solid enough that the case was officially closed. Valentine Sally was identified as Melody Cutlip. Except Melody Cutlip's own mother refused to accept the body. She said it wasn't her daughter. She was right. In the summer of 1986, Melody Cutlip walked back into her family's life in Jacksonville, Florida. She had been alive the entire time. The identification was wrong. Valentine Sally's file was reopened. She was a Jane Doe again, with nothing but a name that wasn't hers. The years passed. The highway kept moving. The case gathered dust. In 2005, something changed. Coconino County Sheriff's Office assigned the case to a newly formed cold case squad, a group of volunteers, all with law enforcement backgrounds, who gave their time to cases the world had forgotten. The principal investigators were Chuck Jones, a retired FBI agent, Jana White, and Joe Sumner. Jones, whose health would eventually force him to step back, became the engine that kept the case moving. He refused to let Valentine Sally disappear a second time. The cold case squad followed the science wherever it led. They had heard about the case of the Golden State Killer, the notorious California serial killer who had evaded identification for decades before being caught in 2018 through a revolutionary technique called genetic genealogy. The method worked by uploading a suspect's or victim's DNA to public family tree databases, finding partial matches with distant relatives, and then painstakingly working backwards and forwards through family branches until a name emerged. They contacted Barbara Ray Venter, the very genealogist who had identified the Golden State Killer. She agreed to take the case. A blood sample was submitted. The DNA was entered into the databases. Investigators waited. DNA finally solved the mystery after nearly 4 decades. Investigators traced a family line in Missouri until only one missing teenager remained: 17-year-old Carolyn Celeste Eaton. She had disappeared after leaving home on Christmas Day 1981, and on February 22, 2021, authorities confirmed she was the unidentified Valentine Sally. But while Carolyn regained her name, her killer remains unknown. Detectives still search for the man in the cowboy hat seen with her before her death, though no suspect has ever been officially linked. Carolyn now has a marked grave and a known identity, but after more than 40 years, justice is still waiting. And somewhere out there, the man in the cowboy hat with the peacock feather may still be walking free. If this story moved you, share it. Someone, somewhere, might know something. And subscribe for more stories that refuse to let the forgotten stay forgotten.